Hi there, welcome back to the program. James Manning from Mediaweek here with me in studio as usual. James, let's take a closer look at some of the other news stories that are around. We were talking radio before the break. Let's pick that up. We've got Southern Cross Stereo expanding its Today network reach. In fact, it's top or near the top in Melbourne. So what are they doing so right?
Yeah, well, it's that they've really got a hit music format, if you like. They're massive star breakfast show, then sort of, you know, they claim the best mix of hits right across the day. That's something that DMG is going very hard after them at the moment with the Nova brand. In this survey this week, we saw Nova picking up a lot of listeners 10 to 17. It's a bit younger than most stations like, but that audience will flow through into the key demos very shortly. So it seems to be they're closing in on that audience. And since the merger with Austereo and Southern Cross, they've been using that Today Network brand in a lot more of the Southern Cross regional stations. Gold Coast sort of changed to Today branding recently, and CFM in Hobart also did it this week.
Yeah, and speaking of Hobart, we're getting radio ratings for the first time since 2002 now. that's a while. ABC.
It's been a little while, yeah.
You'd think that some things would have changed in that 9 years. ABC was on top last time.
Yeah, well, then again, it'll be interesting to see. You'll say, well, no change. Well, a decade and there's no change. But yeah, so you don't get radio ratings in a market. Somebody's got to pay for them. So the stations get together and say, OK, is there a commercial imperative? So they call in Nielsen and whatever they pay. It's not cheap, I guess. So the commercials and the ABC are getting together and they're going to get back into regular survey. And they've also just announced in the Gold Coast too, they're going to go from 2 surveys a year to 3 surveys a year. It's the stations up there, it's Hot Tomato and Southern Cross Austereo, together with the ABC are going to do that. So
I guess in rating season, you know, promotions and giveaways are going fast and furious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, big cash giveaways, trips overseas, whatever it takes to draw those extra listeners in.
A bit of a shock switch at 3AW over to Triple M. Yeah, this is quite a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, Dennis Cometti, you know, familiar face and voice, and more importantly, the voice for Channel 7 football. He's one of their key announcers. He'd been working for 3AW calling Saturday afternoon games. He went in there apparently to say, look, I'm about to sign a deal with a competitor, just giving you the heads up, letting you know. And they said, OK, sorry, no role for you anymore. Yeah, they let him out of his contract immediately. We believe he's going to Triple M. There's still no deal there yet in Melbourne, so interesting to see if that.
Confirmed,
yeah, no, they still haven't announced it, so presumably he'll be on there next year, but it sort of indicates that maybe he won't be working with 7 because they're going to have football on 3 days, you know, 4 games instead of 2. You thought there might have been a role for him on each day, but it doesn't look like it.
Interesting one. Just switching our focus a little bit, for outdoor advertising, we've seen the measurements reporting, you know, bigger crowds than ever. I guess passing by these signs, is that how it works? How do they measure that?
And it's a different way of measuring too. They're perfecting the sort of system. There's a new system of measuring how many people go past, you know, billboards, signs at retail, at airports. That was launched last year. It's called Move. They've sort of looked at it again this year and they've found increases of about 13.6% overall. Some big jumps in Melbourne, up 15%. I think Adelaide and Perth, the smaller markets, up 20%. So there's actually, I don't know how they do it, but they count the passing traffic, the passing foot traffic, and there's, you know, and then the gaze of people. It's pretty complicated. It took them a long time to work it out.
You would think a bit subjective, perhaps, as well.
A little bit, but I think it's, you know, I think it's quite, you know, the industry sort of accepts it as a fair sort of measure.
And from what I understand, they'll continue to tweak it, and that.
That's right. Yeah, some of that changes from sort of population movement. You know, some markets more people move and some people leave, and the other way is just you know, a better way of fine-tuning the number of people.
In television, we have 9 Network bringing back something quite familiar to the screens, Big Brother.
Yeah, again, this isn't 100% confirmed, but it seems 9 have signed a heads of agreement with Endemol Southern Star to bring the show back. Used to be part of the 10 network staple, you know. Gretel Colleen hosted it for a lot of years. Kyle and Jackie O hosted the last year. It was on screens here, and it'll be back next year. We believe they'll probably strip it at 7 p.m, which they had great success with the block in that time slot this year. So they'll be looking for some more content for that next year, and the Big Brother started off that way in Australia, stripped 7 nights a week at 7 p.m. So it seems like it'll be the place.
So they still see life, obviously, in that franchise.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think there was a bit of I don't know if it was a bidding war, but there's a lot of interest from the networks, and it's sort of like content that you can spin off content for your digital channels too. You know, like Nine might be able to use it late night, perhaps for Go or Gem. You know.
Bananas and Pajamas, we teased this going into the break. Obviously, lots of people very familiar with this, whether they have children or they're grown-up children right now. So
and they're back. It's an animated series now, as opposed to the guys used to dress up in the banana suit. So again, that's another sort of Endemol Southern Star success story. It's gone global in a big way. Sort of the cartoons run around the world, and they've just appointed some new merchandising people in the UK and Europe. Sort of they're really going to flood the market there with Bananas in Pajamas merchandise. So I guess it's the ABC, it's a commercial success story for them. It generates sort of revenue that they put to good use.
And we had a whole bunch of big sporting events last week, Rugby World Cup, you know, being one of them. How did we sort of see that performing in the ratings?
Yeah, they all did pretty well. The Rugby World Cup started last Friday night in New Zealand. The opening ceremony, it was only broadcast on, the opening ceremony I think was only broadcast on Fox Sports. The first Australian game was on the Sunday, Australia versus Italy. It was broadcast both on Fox Sports and Nine. I think the Nine audience did about 500,000 people. Fox Sports did about 300,000. So they're great figures for both of them. They'll probably be the #1 show in next week's sort of chart for Fox Sports. The tennis, also we did very well in the tennis. Sam Stosur winning the US Open. Again, Nine, it was an early morning, so you're not going to get massive crowds. Nine got about 500,000 people. Fox Sports got about 150,000. So again, they both see that as a bit of a success story, especially that time of day. And then the AFL, I think we spoke last week about the AFL, the NRL. There's been a lot of debate who's the bigger sport. And when you sort of dissect the figures for that, the first weekend of the finals, the AFL actually narrowly outrated the NRL.
Okay, well that brings us nicely, James, I think, to taking a look at the ratings. This is for week 37, and if we look at free to air, Wild Boys in the top position this week. That's that new drama on 7, isn't it?
Yep, again, another Southern Star show. They're having some great success at the moment, those guys.
And X Factor, of course, you know, makes the list twice in the top 5. And Underbelly Razor falling, I guess, from first place that it was in last week.
Yeah, good to see 3 Australian dramas in the top 4 shows. You know, Wild Boys, Packed to the Rafters, and Underbelly Razor. So it's, you know, it's a great incentive there for networks to spend up and commission Aussie dramas.
Absolutely. Moving along, the Sunday shows, factoring in there as well. Sunday night on 7, and also 7 News Sunday, down at number 10, and again, X Factor there as well. Moving along, and we do have subscription TV ratings for week 37. We've got top 5 sports.
Yep.
This is what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
NZ versus Tonga.
Yeah, that was that first game on the Friday night. I think it did pretty well for Fox Sports there. The AFL there is actually the last home and away game before the finals started. Another 2 Rugby World Cup game, or another game in the opening ceremony, and a Roosters Storm game there.
And let's take a look at some of the non-sport. And there's Australia's Next Top Model. I don't think there was any scandals this week, as far as I've heard as well. Anyway.
Well, there was a bit of a minor scandal, especially on Facebook. There was another double elimination. A couple of people we thought might actually go all the way to the end got thrown off. So, yeah, for that audience, it was a big deal for them.
Good. And Simpsons, Futurama, Good Luck Charlie, and Jersey Shore coming in at number 5. We've got a new joiner, which we might see in the ratings next week. It's Rove. He's beginning the show. Let's just take a look at some of the promotional stuff that's out there for Rove right now.
It's all in the air. You hear it everywhere. No matter what you do, it's gonna grab a hold on you. California soul. California soul.
Little play on Entourage there at the end there.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, Fox 8's the place to be on Monday nights for the next, I think it's 10 weeks. But Craig Campbell is Rove's business partner, executive producer. He's been over there with him working on the format. So if they turn up a show as good as the promos, you know, I think people will be pretty happy with that. Craig Campbell, of course, used to work on Rove on Channel 10 when the two were together. Craig's also the guy responsible for the 7 PM project, which is having a pretty good year, and it's currently Network 10's #1 show most nights of the week. So I don't know whether they'll miss him while he's away focusing on Rove. But interesting to see what happens. The first guests, he's got Kathy Griffin, one of my favourites, on the first week. So that's going to be a pretty good reason to watch. Lisa Kudrow from Friends is also on.
So this is going to be a mix of interview and, you know, can we expect sort of a similar style to, you know, the previous round?
Yeah, he's going to take a camera and get out into LA and look for sort of quirky stories and funny sort of things that, you know, might be off the sort of tourist beat, if you like.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll be a lot of fun. Hugh Jackman's coming up on week 2. So yeah, and Foxtel Publicity have been working the show really hard. You can get some sort of good stories about him out in the media. They've done a good job on getting the message out.
Probably guess we'll have a few of those stupid American kind of skits when he gets out amongst them. Not saying they are, I'm just saying we'll hear some of those jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
James, pleasure having you in as always. We appreciate it. We look forward to Media Week next week.
Okay then.
That's James Manning. He is the editor and publisher of Media Week. That's it for Media Week. Stay with us. Back in a moment.